times every Saturday in 90 minutes, I wouldn't bother very much. I wouldn't worry at all.
Well, Sammy's told me all about you, so I think we can dispense with the usual formality. I've made out a 5-year contract here for you. If you just like to sign it there, and there, that'll be you.
Fantastic.
Sammy tells me you scored 7 goals in the first half on Saturday.
Aye. Too bad I missed the second.
Too bad. What happened? Were you injured?
No, to go to Mass.
The joke is a serious one. The conspicuous absence of Catholic players in the Rangers team until now could be seen as an endorsement of bigotry on the terracings. Until this situation is confronted directly, no explanation of why it exists is likely to sound convincing.
I don't know how this came about. I know it's always been, but whether we had 2 or 3 Catholics playing, it wouldn't make any difference whatsoever. People say sign Catholics. It's not a case you're going out and you don't want to sign Catholics. That's never come into it. It's a case of players being available. We have signed players that we thought were good enough for Rangers Football Club. We'll go on doing this. Regards, as I say, people turn around and say sign Catholics. Now, Celtic are known as a Catholic club and they play Protestants. So what's the difference?
Perhaps the answer is a subtle difference between black and white.
I think that any football team or club which doesn't select players strictly on merit is holding a view I find unsupportable. The great thing about football is that you get a young boy who may have nothing else going for him in the world, but he can play football. And that has allowed successive generations of guys to grow up, bring up families, have nice houses, send their kids to school, everything else, given them opportunities in their life simply because of their ability to kick a football. It's one of the great rewarding features. It may be the very reason for professional football. And you have a club that says, there's a little bit more to it than that. Not only you've got to be able to play football, but you've got to have gone to the right school. I find that I find it incredible in this day and age, apart from anything else. I find it rather pathetic. And I hope, as people have done for 50 years, it'll stop. But I'll believe it when I see it.
Few players have acknowledged that there has been something more than football going on at Ibrox. One who has had the thoughtfulness and the nerve to write about the situation is Tony Higgins.
They signed me as a first-rounding Catholic, You're better signing a bad player. And you could have crucified me every Saturday at 2:45 before the game starts. You could have thrown things at me on the cross and taped me around the ground. And I'd been quite happy to play there for half the wages of the rest of the players for that. After that article, actually, I was playing again at Ibrox and I was walking off the game, after the game, in the tunnel. There was one woman there. She'd on the blue mascara and the red lipstick, which met about the eye. It met about her nose, actually. They both met about the nose. And she called me a big, dirty, fiending bastard again. And I turned around and I said, come on now. She goes, nothing personal. I know you're Auntie Annie. I work with her.
Maybe that kind of impersonal venom makes most outsiders don neutral colours. Alfie Conn knew the applause of the Rangers fans before he went to play for Spurs. He returned to Scotland to share in the success of Celtic. He had been a part of 2 clubs which were regarded as being mutually exclusive by many of their supporters. Perhaps the experience taught him diplomacy. Which of the 2 does he prefer?
Spurs.
The trophy room at Ibrox looks like the fortress of a successful tradition. But perhaps if the success is to continue, at least one aspect of the tradition will have to change. Like an indication of changing times, Aberdeen were to emerge to challenge the supremacy of the old firm. The River Clyde created not only Glasgow, it created most of the industry from which the supporters of Rangers and Celtic have traditionally come. It is perhaps significant that with the decline of heavy industry in the industrial west of Scotland, more than the prosperity has shifted to Aberdeen. Footballing success seems to have followed the shipping north.
By that time, North Sea oil and industries had come into Aberdeen, and Aberdeen began to become a booming place. And now, of course, the offshore oil capital of Europe. So what we did, maybe the first time in the history of the club, was not look for which manager was available, but try and profile a manager which we thought would do the job at Paton. And the profile came out to be Ali MacLeod. So Ali came here in 1975, 6, and he won the League Cup for us. And what he did was he breathed new life into the club, into the players, and indeed the whole city. And it was a magical time for us because everybody was dancing in air. And he proved that with the confidence he instilled in the players, that we could be successful.
Always was one who'd like to bring the establishment down, you know. I've always been a bit of a rebel. I mean, it's quite interesting. I should tell you, when I went to Aberdeen, I said the first minute I went there, I said to myself, right, I'm going to destroy the old firm. I mean, that was the theory behind it, that Aberdeen would be the greatest team in the East Coast, although I'm a great West Coast man, would destroy the West. Well, as it's turned out, it's happened. Maybe it hasn't just been me. I'd like to think I started it.
But Ali MacLeod didn't stay long. Next came Billy McNeill. Then there was Alec Ferguson, whose career seemed in decline.
Lots of people and the pundits said we were daft and crazy to appoint Alec Ferguson. But again, when we analysed it clinically and coldly, we could see that this was a man who filled our profile. We didn't need a good, successful track record as a player. What we needed was somebody with an abundant and wide knowledge of the game. Top coach, and this was with the qualities which we needed. Because again, the base was now built even firmer. It was higher. We're now talking about 1978. And we knew that it was very, very important to get a manager here who had these coaching and technical abilities. And the man with all the warts about him at that time, Industrial Tribunal, as you said, at Paisley, was Alec Ferguson.
Ali phoned me from this office, actually, and said he'd accepted him at the Scotland manager's job and would have interest in coming. But at that time, I was still felt a lot to do at St Mirren, you know, but I turned it down, off my head, you know, but the next year, obviously, there was no way I was going to turn it down.
We took a big chance, a lot of people said, but in actual fact, we were pretty confident that despite all the adverse criticism there was of the appointment, that in the end, although it may take a bit of time, that Fergie would do the job for us.
It didn't take too much time for Alec Ferguson and his players to show that they could certainly do the job.
But there is Strachan. Yes! A quite excellent goal. Strachan. Well, that's a brilliant ball. McGee is caught.
The taste of success created the appetite for more.
Black, almost there. And there's McDougall, yes. There's a Black Henderson. 1-0.
Aberdeen's great captain, Willie Miller, became familiar with trophies.
Black. And it's there. McDougall. 4-2.
In 5 years, Aberdeen had won 3 Scottish Cups, 3 league titles and 1 League Cup. The only thing Glasgow still seemed to be champion of was Gallows Yuma.
Jock Wallace took me up to the trophy room and he opened the door and Shergar ran out. And I wouldn't have minded, but Lord Lucan was on its back and all that, you know. And they've planted tatties in Ibrox so they'll have something to lift at the end of the season.
We think we know a bit about the game, having all played the game professionally, and I think that helps us to feel the pulse of the whole setup.
Besides breaking the near monopoly of the old firm, Aberdeen have let some fresh air into the boardroom. The style of club management by the 3-man board is less autocratic than has been traditional.
Well, the thing being is it happens with a lot of chairmen and directors. You know, they want to run the club, you see. They want to be manager too. You see, they think they know more than the manager. And vanity, you see, they become megalomaniacs in football, you see. That happens so many times. Fortunately, we have a chairman at Aberdeen